good afternoon from Alchemy Total Wellness. This is Zack, and I'm going to make a brief video for you today about emotional transcendence. Now, those of you who have worked with me, who have heard me speak on this topic, or who have read some of my work, know that I talk a lot about emotional mastery. But emotional transcendence is different from emotional mastery. See, emotional mastery is when you're in command of your emotional state. So if you want to experience joy, you can experience joy in a moment's notice. If I want to experience confidence, in a matter of seconds, I can get in a confident state. If I'm experiencing an emotion I do not want to be experiencing, I can shift out of it very quickly. That is emotional mastery, and that is a very useful skill because emotions can be very resourceful. Certain emotions make us capable of things, make us perform better in different areas of life. But emotions, of course, can also be destructive. They can also be negative. So we want to get good at shifting and being in command of our emotional state. The difference between emotional mastery and emotional transcendence is that emotional transcendence takes us beyond emotion. Instead of being down here and shifting emotion and playing with emotion, it takes us beyond emotion. And the reason this is important is because from this place, you can experience a great sense of inner peace, of calm, of tranquility. The types of states that we often don't get in our day-to-day life because we're so consumed by what's going on around us. Things happen and they piss us off or they irritate us. Somebody cuts us off. We get an email we don't like. Our boss irritates us. The line is long at the bank. I don't know. But things happen throughout our day that disrupt our emotional state, and we wrestle with those things and we try to change those things. And what happens is we're constantly going through these ups and downs, and we're very out of control of our experience of life. See, the quality of our lives is the quality of the emotions we experience on a regular basis. Let me repeat that. The quality of our lives is the quality of the emotions we most often experience. If you live a life where you most often experience joy, celebration, gratitude, passion, productivity, love, that's going to be a better quality of life than a quality of life where you most often experience anger, agitation, frustration, stress, fear, anxiety, depression. So it's the quality of the emotions we most often experience. So this tool of emotional transcendence becomes really important because it gives us access to another dimension of being. It gives us access to a beautiful state that by default, we don't often experience in our day-to-day lives. So first, to talk about this, let's boil down emotions. Now, we have all different labels for emotions. I just said a few of them. We have different names for them. But ultimately, whether it's a good or a bad emotion, emotions are sensations in the body. And emotions are the body's response to the mind. Now, why do I say good and bad emotion? I'm not putting some sort of judgment on it. The only reason I say that is because some emotions are pleasurable and some emotions are painful. And one of the number one things we want to do as human beings is avoid pain. It's hardwired into us because that's survival. So we want to avoid pain. It's one of our strongest drives. So we experience an emotion we don't like, and instantly we try to avoid it. We try to resist it. We try to sedate it. Drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, pills, whatever it may be. It could be good things. It could be working out. We try to beat this thing out of us, or we try to drown it, or we try to sedate it because we don't like that negative emotional experience. in this skill of emotional transcendence, we relinquish that resistance. Because what happens to a lot of us is when we resist what's going on, we keep it stuck. And that's because emotions as energy, as sensations in the body, will naturally come and go. They will naturally pass through us, just like all other energy forms. It's transient, it's fleeting, it's ever-changing. Except what happens is we get in the way and we resist it. When we resist it, we provide an opposing force. So now it has nowhere to go. And now we're stuck with this thing. We're wrestling with this thing that we don't like. And this is about, instead of opposing, we're going to go above. We're going to transcend. Now, this is a mindfulness-based skill, because by transcending, what we're doing is we're cutting off the energy source. We're cutting off the thing that feeds these emotions. And I just said before, emotions are the body's response to the mind. So what we're doing is we're cutting out the mental noise. Because resistance can only happen mentally. I'm not talking about physical resistance. I'm talking about inner resistance. That's the resistance that keeps it stuck. That's the resistance that keeps it from passing through. That's the resistance that keeps an emotion, just like any other energy form, from coming and going. It's also the resistance that causes us to do all these things, to yell, to shout, to drink. Whatever our flavor is, whatever our go-to methods are, because we learn these, we become very good at these things. It's that resistance that causes that makes us feel like we have to do something about this. So emotional transcendence is mindfulness-based, and here's the practice. It's remarkably simple, but it's difficult because we're not used to it. There's nothing inherently difficult about it. It's difficult because we're not used to operating this way in our day-to-day life. We're not told this, we're not taught this. But emotional transcendence is all about awareness. So it starts by simply observing whatever emotion you're experiencing as a sensation or a set of sensations in the body. So you become keenly aware of where you're experiencing this emotion. Where does it show up for you? And in doing so, you bring your attention into the body, out of the head, and into the body. And you simply notice. Now, the key here is to notice without adding anything. The key here is to be aware without feeling like you have to do something about it. It's to get curious. It's to explore. It's to observe. Now, a lot of spiritual teachers throughout history have pointed to this process, and they talk about being the witness to your mind. They talk about being the observer, being the watcher, being the master. And in this process, you're separating from the emotional experience. You're no longer fused to it. So it's no longer, I am anger. There's no identification with it. There's no longer, I am angry, I should say. There's no longer, I am angry. There's, I am experiencing anger. There's a big difference there. It's no longer, I am depressed. It's, I am experiencing depression. Or I am experiencing a set of sensations that we call depression. And so what happens is now you gain some distance. Because as soon as you observe something, there's a subject and an object. See, many of us go throughout our days running these patterns and going through these things unconsciously. We're not aware that we're doing it. And because of that, we feel like we're out of control and we feel like we don't have a choice. And that's exactly right. Because when you're not aware, and you don't have that space, there is no choice. You're just acting on autopilot, which is why many of us find ourselves doing things that we don't want to be doing. We find ourselves regretting the actions we took, yelling at that person, for example. Because once we calm down and time gives us some separation, we look back and we have distance now, and we realize, man, I shouldn't have done that. Or we find ourselves, half our face in a box of Oreos. Right? It's autopilot. We're not aware often when we're doing those things. Or if we are aware, we don't care, because we've learned that that is what we have to do to fix the painful emotional state that we're in. So next time you experience an emotion that is unfavorable, we'll say. So don't start with something really intense. Start with something that's kind of irritating, a little annoying, a little frustrating. Start there. And next time you experience that, rather than try to fix it, try to change it, try to do anything about it, just become aware of where is that emotion showing up for you in your body. And just watch it. Just observe it. And notice what happens. What you'll find is that emotion, once you start experiencing it, not in your head with all the mental noise and chaos and chatter, not in your head in terms of the label we put on it, but just as a raw sensation in the body, when you just notice it on that level and you become aware and you sit with it and you notice it without thinking and without having to intervene. When you experience it from that place, it comes and goes rather quickly. It dissolves, it melts away. It comes and it goes. And as you experience it passing through you, you become free. And you quite literally become untouchable. Because when you have that skill, when you occupy that ability and you practice it enough times, nothing can get to you. And if it does, you know how to access that place. You know how to transcend. You know how to occupy that space of awareness where you are the witness. And in doing so, you know how to dissolve away that emotion, that craving, that response, that reaction. And that's one of the keys to life right there. So I encourage you to try this throughout your day, as often as you remember, but make it at least just at one point a deliberate practice. The next time you experience something like that, again, start small, mild agitation, mild frustration, mild sadness. Start from there. Observe it, watch it, sit with it, notice it, and see what happens. Thanks a lot. I hope this was helpful. I'd love to hear about your experiences, so feel free to give us a call, email me, write a comment, and I'll get back to you. Thank you.